This is going to be a technical one, especially dramatically different from what we saw.
Is no stranger to these open wheel machines, as this has become a perennial circuit on the IndyCar schedule. Now, we're not going to see nearly as much drafting as we saw, for example, out at Watkins's Glen or some other circuits we've seen like Spa, but that's not to say that there can't be a little bit of passing around here. The two best zones to be able to get a good pass done are going to be going into the keyhole. That's that long right-handed hairpin that is turn 2, and then also going down into China Beach at turn 4. Now, what makes China Beach interesting is it's not really that heavy of a car down in the way you want it to go and positioning the car there. Now, drivers are going to have to be careful, though, coming through the S's and then that final sequence, that 10, 11, 12, 13, and through the carousel, that is always a tricky place and always ready to catch drivers out.
No doubt. Now, the championship is starting to come into view as we look at the F1 drivers' standings. Manuel Lachetta with a win over Christian Perez, who sits in third, jumps up a bit from last round. David Burns, though, holding on tight to Lachetta, with Francisco not far behind Perez and only a single point splitting fourth and fifth. Ludwig Sauer making sure that he stays in the hunt. We also have an F2 Amateurs Championship. How's that sitting right now, DJ?
Well, Joe, very close at the top there, as with the other one, with Ludwig Sauer only 2 points back of Christopher Guerra. Steve Dewar, they're 8 points back in a very tight battle for third between him and series organizer Wojciech Podolczek there. Only 1 point separating the two. And then we've got a tie between Christopher Crook and Eric Leukel for fifth.
Of course, we have a team's championship as well as we take a look at that. Two Stupid Dogs leading the way, with Team Kalmbach about 9 points back. Racecraft Esports is a big leap behind, with only 2 separating themselves in Evolve Motorsports, and it's also pretty tight down to Street Trends Team 1. So all still to fight for here in the team's championship. Let's go to race details now.
Well, Joe, we are in the third of 5 rounds. That's right, it's 5-round season, very short in the Absolute Beginners League. And as always, we are racing the Skip Barber Formula 2000 cars. Now, it is a 40-minute race that we are in store for today, and drivers are currently out on track for a 10-minute open qualifying session. Open setups are available, so drivers are able to tweak and tune the car however they'd like to for the race. And but that in mind, that we do have a 51% fuel limit, so drivers will have to come into the pits over the course of the race. And unlike a lot of the series we cover here on the Global SimRacing Channel, it is a standing start.
Right now, the qualifying just got started, and the drivers trying to get in a fast lap. Don't have nearly as many drivers as we've seen in recent rounds, but still plenty around what isn't a terribly long circuit. How important do you see that track position in qualifying being, getting that good starting order?
I think it's going to be a pretty big deal, Joe. Mid-Ohio, while yes, you can get those passes, like I said, into the keyhole and into China Beach, it's a bit tricky. Specifically going into the keyhole, you've got to get through the relatively flat-out kink of turn 1, and you've got to lift a little bit for that, and so that's going to throw some things off in terms of the draft. And then, like I said, it's not as easy to get a pass done into turn 4 into China Beach just because it's not a heavy braking zone. So I think qualifying is going to be very, very important. You want to get your car as best positioned as possible just in case it is almost impossible to overtake today.
Getting a couple times in, but I believe this is just out laps, as we're seeing about a 144 there on the screen. And you'll also see a number of drivers out here today as well, paying tribute to Dennis after tragically losing him to a car accident. There you see one of them right there. You'll see a couple that have put all black on their cars in homage, as this is Wojciech Podolczek, one of our league organizers, who has done so in reverence. I believe Johan Vandenbeld is another one that you'll see along with Ludwig Sauer.
Yeah, drivers obviously very, very shaken up by the passing of Dennis, but everybody wanting to get back on track to pay honor to one of the founding members of this league, just in the way that he would have wanted to do it, just get back and get racing.
So we're waiting for those first competitive times to get on the board here as our drivers come across. Let's see who's able to put one down that'll really be more representative. I see a 135 from Francisco. He's usually quick, so that's definitely a good marker on what the others are going to be trying to go up against. Looks like Vandenbelt not too far off, but still about 6/10. Still plenty of time left for the drivers to obviously try and get a quick one in. If you were out there, would you want to try and get with a pack to use that slipstream down some of the longer straights?
You know, Joe, I think I would. It looks like that's a lot of what people are trying to do. Obviously, I'd like to be able to be in clean air once I get through turn 4 and really all the way to the start-finish line. But I do think picking up a good draft is going to help you. The aero wash in these cars, obviously not as much as we see in some of the other series out there with just the minimal amounts of downforce that these cars actually have.
So as more of them tick one out, oh, Lucetta looking very good, about just shy of 2/10 off of Francisco. So that's a good sign as he finally has one in. We're waiting on a few to set their first competitive time. Podajek, Zauer, Walker, Burns, Dancy, Zamolo, Camilleri, and Simonson are among the few that I'm seeing right now, but they still got 5 minutes, so they got a couple laps to get a clean one. The question is, can they get a fast and clean one? We're watching Francisco come back to the line. Let's see if he can improve on this 35.9.
He can indeed. A 35.874 there for Diogo, so that is going to keep him top. But Benny Simonson putting in a 35.815 to take pole away.
Interesting. Benny Simonson quick today. Just Jonk now into third as well, ahead of Lucetta. And the Trident, oh, well, he was up there briefly. He gets shuffled down a little bit as the 666 now moves to 6 appropriately.
And here we're watching Ryan Walker making his way through the first corner. David Burns, defending champion here, coming in fourth place. David had a very uncharacteristic spin coming through the S's on his first attempted flying lap. There you see Lucetta bumping up in the order. He putting in a 35.9. That's going to put him in fourth place.
All right, so as we... Ooh, Taylor Reeder actually looking pretty good himself. So that is a name I don't usually remember seeing up towards the top. He's within about 0.8 of a second of the pole. He's in ninth. As Manuel Lucetta from Italy has got some work to do, starting from fourth today currently. And it's very tight between himself and third and second. Only has a few hundredths to make up.
Indeed, he does. Here is Diogo there making his way around the final corners. Let's see if the Iberian driver has anything else in the bank. 35.2, absolutely mega lap. That's 0.6 of a second faster than Benny Simonson.
Wow. That is a huge marker at a track like this. Even with a minute 30, they are currently not too far apart from most of them, especially this many drivers as well. Tends to keep things very tight as David Burns crosses at the 35.9 last time by. Let's see who else from our front runners is coming through. I see Camilleri in the 30, and he's getting a tow from Lucetta, who we know is quick, as Camilleri crosses. It's a 35.6. That's 0.2 faster. That'll put him into second.
That's a very good lap from Camilleri, but still that time from Francisco, absolutely stunning. Here comes Edgar Sancinelli crossing the line. He's going to be able to improve his time by about 0.1 of a second there, place him into 24th place.
2.5 minutes left to go. Drivers don't have too many laps left now, as we see Edgar Sancinelli come around and Peter Stipek down in 29th, second to last of those who set a time. As he comes across, that's much better, a 37.3, but it only gets him up to 24th. Still a gain of a couple spots, so that'll certainly be encouraging. Francisco, he's coming around through the carousel now. Let's see, can he go even faster? Currently 3.5 ahead of Danielle. Down to the line, a 35.2, stays a 35.2. That one was a 10th off.
Not quite able to get the time he needs here. Here comes Josh Brain coming across the line. He's going to put in a 136 dead. So it's a good lap for Josh there. That'll move him up to 9th.
So still waiting on, I think, Leolius to put a time in, but he's not out on the track, and so he's run out of time. Everybody who is out there is able to improve from here, but Leolius and Pieniziak, unfortunately, not going to be able to do anything. We'll have to start from the back of the field. Lucetta, as he crosses a 36.5, is going to mean this is his last shot to go quicker than 7th place today.
Loden crossing over the line, able to improve there with a 137.5. That's going to keep him up in the 20s. Steve Durr now coming to the line. He's currently sat in 23rd place, but Steve, they're able to improve by about 0.6 of a second, so that'll bump him up the order into 14th.
Mild and Stipek getting ready to start their last flyer. Now they could possibly try and go quicker this time through. Let's see if this sees any improvement for the 24. It is a 37 flat. Yeah, half a second faster. That'll definitely do it, as Stipek has that one unfortunately discounted. Francisco trying to go quicker on his pole time. Starts one last lap after this one if he wants it. Is this one going to be any better? It is a 34.8. First driver to crack into the 34s. And no, Simonson then follows him up with a 34.5.
Oh my goodness gracious, Joe. Just when we think these times can't go anywhere, somebody comes in and pips it. This is absolutely incredible. Christopher Giros, they're running a good lap. Let's see if David Burns all the way down in 11th. Burns able to improve there, though, and that's going to put him up to 3rd. He'll be much happier with that time.
And these are huge margins that they're improving. Tullo does not improve. Wilford doesn't either. Gruel does, and that gets him into 21st. Nothing for Alpstead. Up next is going to be Lucetta, who's all the way down in 11th. He gets a 35 flat. That'll get him back into 3rd. So the conditions of the track certainly seem to be favoring those who are still out right now.
Yeah, Joe, and I think it's a combination of that we got a little bit of a cooler track here, 77 degrees track temperature, and all these drivers are burning off fuel, so they are able to go a little bit faster.
From what I understand, the tires do like to get warmed up as well in these cars now recently. And as they continue to put laps on, I'm sure that's helping. And Leolis actually gets back out on track. Is he able to put a competitive time in, or is this not going to be a timed lap? Nope, not a timed lap for him, unfortunately. So he will indeed have to start from the back. Looks like Francisco heading in, so he's going to give away that pole. Simonson will come across to try and improve, and he does not, unfortunately. Vincent Brame, a 35.289. That'll put him into 4th. Up next, it's going to be Zauer, a 35.9, up to 12th for him, but still stuck back in the mid-pack. Taylor Reeder up next, sitting in 15th. He was as high as 9th at one point, and that one is not going to be any quicker. Tullo, we already saw cross, so that's going to be everybody. And our grid is set. So we wait for the clock to finish out here in our qualifying session. It looks like now we head on over. So let's go through our starting order. It'll be Benny Simonson who takes the pole by 0.3 of a second, nearly 4/10. Diogo Francisco will be P2, and Manuel Lucetta starts from 3rd. Vincent Brame managed 4th today, with David 3rd-degree burns starting within the top 5, and to his outside it'll be Camerari. Just Jonk starts 7th, Frederick Neptune in P8, and Potacek in 9th, with Brain rounding out our top 10.
In 11th is going to be Christopher Giros, followed by Ludwig Sauer to his outside in row 6. Steve Durr will line up in 13th, followed by Christopher Crook, Taylor Reeder, and Eric Lukel. Starting the inside of row 9 is going to be Simone Zambolo, followed by Alexander Wilford, and rounding out your top 20, it's Thor Tulla and Peter Stipek.
Johan Bandeveld, unusually far down in the order and qualifying 21st, with Christian Gruel in 22nd. Ryan Walker, another one not used to seeing start to this spot, but 23rd for him. Alpstead in 24th, and Sancinelli in P25. Then you've got Dancy in 26, followed by Mild on the inside of the next row. It'll be Klaas Loden in 28th, Tulla 29th, McKinsey Mann 30th. Last one to put a lap in was Emerseal. Pianezek is starting 33rd with Iliolis in 32nd. As the cars continue to grid up, it is a standing start here, so don't have to worry about the awkward start in the rolling sense, but they do have to worry about the fact that many of the field is beginning this one on the carousel. Hopefully everybody's clean as the lights come up, the engines start to rev, and the green flag is out off the line. Simonson looking decent. Francisco, however, is being gained upon by Lucetta. Top few actually get single file quite quickly coming down into the first corner. Very little double wide until we get back to about 17th as they almost go 4 wide back there as they all now start to fly towards the keyhole.
And to the surprise of nobody, David Burns already making a couple of moves here, trying to get his way up the inside. He's sliding in behind Vincent Bream right now, trying to find something. Everybody piloting their way through the keyhole. It looks clear. Oh, we've got a big accident in the back there.
Yeah, we're going to try and get back to that in a bit, and it looks like that involved Mann, Wilford, and Guerrero. So, as the rest of them use the slipstream to pick up speed down into China Beach, it remains Simonson, our leader, Francisco following him in second, Lucetta in third. No change from our starting positions for those three.
Not at all. Wojciech Potacek doing a good job, though, to get his way up in front of Josh Brain behind as they now work their way through the technical section of the course. This is where incident mitigation comes into play. You just want to keep all 4 tires on the black stuff. Be very, very careful coming over the crest of these hills and not put the power on too early.
That red collar you saw off at China Beach was Crook. He kept going without hitting anything. Bit of a slide there through turn 9 into Thunder Valley for Simonson. Oh, and very wide coming through the carousel. It opens the door for Francisco, but he can't quite get through as they complete lap 1 and come around. We've had a few DNFs, but considering what could have been a lot worse on the exit of the keyhole, we've only lost 2. Oh, bad exit there. Simonson goes a little bit wide, dips some wheels into the dirt. Diogo spies an opportunity. He's going to go the long way around as they come to the braking into the keyhole. Is he maybe going to go for the over-under? He does slip in behind him, and he tries to get the launch. He'll have the slipstream, but it isn't a significantly better run off the turn than Simonson.
It's not, but he still thinks he's got something poking his nose to what will be the outside of that first part of China Beach. It'll switch back to him. Got to be very careful here. Doesn't want to dive it in too wide. Little bit of a pinch there, just trying to find the grip. They're going to go side by side as they climb the hill there of turn 5. Ooh, advantage is going to switch back to Simonson here as they go through the right-hander. Almost gets their nose in there, and it looks like that's not going to work for Francisco, but Lucetta also coming up very hot now.
What a defense from the 22 to hold on to that lead. So Francisco's going to have to do something a little different from that, as once again, a little wide off of turn 9 from the 22 as the car slides across that crest. Francisco not daring enough to take it too wide through turn 11 at this stage in the race, though. We are seeing quite a train here at the front, despite this not really being considered much of a draft track compared to others. This goes back to 8th with Potacek at the very tail of it.
Well, Joe, we haven't really had a chance to talk about pit strategy yet, but I'm certainly looking at guys like Lucetta and Burns, who are big-time veterans of the series. They know sitting back in a draft train like this will be very, very beneficial to them. They'll be able to lay off the throttle a little bit on the straightaways. But here comes Francisco again, diving to the outside. Let's see if he can make it work. He's got a little bit of an overlap there, but again, Simonson able to just get the grip through the middle of the keyhole and prevent an overtake from Francisco.
At that time, it almost looked like Diogo had to take evasive action as he wanted to cut down, but there's a car there. Once again, pulls the slipstream, but once again is forced to the outside. Last time it worked for Simonson. Will it work a second time? Francisco is actually fully ahead. He can't get it down to the apex to chop him off, though. He'll get the inside, down into madness. Oh, but the car starts to slide, and they come together and over into the barriers, tumbling on his lid. There goes Simonson. Francisco Francisco spins, and Lucetta takes the lead as we look at the replay.
Oh my goodness gracious, yeah, as we check out the replay here, down into turn 4, everything was nice and easy, and then you hit the nail on the head, Joe. That was just Francisco losing control of the car and sliding out into Simonson. Simonson's race very clearly over, and I gotta say that Francisco's car probably has some pretty significant damage as well.
Fighting that hard early in the race seems to have bit both of them. And now we are down to 6 cars in the lead train instead. 3 seconds ahead of Frederick Neptune, who currently leads a pair, himself and Josh Brain behind them. There you can see them in the background as our leaders go through the first corner. Young taking the fastest lap of the race there amidst that group.
Very interesting. It's good to see the Junkyard Dog back. He's been absent from the past couple of races, and this is exactly where we're used to seeing him. Just kind of loitering up there in that top group, waiting, being patient, taking his time to move his way forward. And Joe, I think these guys are going to settle down here for a little bit. These are all veterans that are used to being in a lead pack like this, and I think their action is going to get significantly more intense once we see pit stops.
Nobody really doing anything there. Now, as we look at 11th, you've seen Stipek having to play defense from Durr. Stipek's up from 20th place. This has been a mega run in just 4 laps. He's going to lose one of them, maybe 2. Dancy's going to try and take advantage of it. He sees the door open. He steps through. Is he going to get it slammed shut? He stays side by side as they weave through madness. He keeps a bit of an overlap, but it starts to drift away from him. Dancy's still fighting hard, but so is Stipek, and Stipek successfully defends, keeps it to 12th.
I thought for a second there that Durr was going to be a pick for Dancy to be able to try to get him up by, but we ride on board with Dancy right now. Whoa-ha! You can see just how tricky it is coming up to that crest of turn 9. That's one of those weird little crests that I talk about here, Joe. You've got to be late on the throttle and be very, very attuned. You don't want to spin the wheels, and you don't want to have too much speed coming over there because you will spin.
This is causing a bit of a pack to form behind them, which includes the likes of Edgar Sancinelli. He's another one that has made tremendous efforts from 25th on the grid to 15th now as he crosses the line.
Yeah, Sancinelli having a very good run. Also, I want to point out that Johan Vanderbilt and Joshua Dancy up 12 and 13 places respectively, so a lot of guys really doing well.
As we see Vandenbeld now trying to shake the likes of Taylor Reeder in the number 21 behind him. He's going to get a good tow, but that certainly looks a little too far back for me. Breaking down into China Beach, and indeed I prove correct. So no attempt from him, at least for now. We've already lost 2 major players from tangling. That certainly implies that others could find themselves getting a little lost in the sauce, unfortunately, today. So we once again look at our leaders. Lucetta, the gap is up to 0.6 of a second. I'm pretty sure Brame's still going to be able to pull a tow if he keeps that to 0.6 by the time they reach the backstretch. But interesting that the 91 has been able to gap them somewhat.
Yeah, not exactly what I would expect. I would have expected them to stay a little bit closer together, but this may just be a situation where Manuel is saying, you know what, I've got the lead. I want to put everything that I have in there. Indeed, does just that, putting in the fastest lap of the race with the 35.735.
And off of the first corner, he gets 2 more tenths off of Brame. This is not looking good for the 25. Let's see what it's like as they exit the keyhole, because this could be important if Brame can get the launch and get himself back within that slipstream. That could keep this fight for the win alive. The 91 trying to break the slipstream a little bit here as he drifts across the track. It was 8 tenths, so Brame held the line. And as they start to pick up speed, it gets down to 7 tenths, just a tiny improvement from the 25. That's not as much as I'm sure he'd really like.
No, I think Manuel right now really has the measure of this Mid-Ohio Sports Car course. Just continues to pull away inch by inch.
See a battle between Walker and Dancy. This is for 12th and 13th. Walker side by side as they come through madness and just sticking his nose into it. That's Steve Durr in the bright blue 66. He has to back out eventually, unfortunately, as he just did not have the presentation there. This all happening behind Stipek, who managed to weasel his way back into 11th.
Indeed, he is able to hold that down, and you can see there Walker having to sacrifice a little bit of time up the road to Joshua Dancy as a result of that fight. He now is about 0.5 of a second back, as there you see on the top of your screen some drivers trading some fastest lap, and Just Jonk taking that fast lap of the race back.
Heard a little bit of radio chatter from Frederick Neptune, who was very unhappy with Zamolo, who held him up as lap traffic. And that did cost Fred quite a bit because he's now 3 seconds behind Potacek.
Did indeed. You can see Josh Brain having a little bit of problems there with that lap traffic of Zamone as well. But it looks like Brain is able to get by, try to get the chase back up to Frederick Neptune. Now he's going to tuck up behind in the draft.
Yeah, Brain just has to be smooth here as the 946 waits behind, about 0.6 behind. He's given a nice little tow to Zamolo. I think we should be getting within the pit window as well, though not sure how many we'll see try and come in unless they are already sent far to the back and are out of order. Right on board with Josh as you get a big sense of the undulations that are included in this circuit, the old school style that it is. It's not able to catch up to Neptune, at least for the time being. Lucetta, in the meantime, has got it up to 0.9 of a second over Vincent Brame. It's starting to look to me like Manuel has got control of this race.
Yeah, very much so, Joe. Just absolutely pulling away here, not setting a toe out of line, and again sets the fastest lap of the race. Now, the only thing that could come out is Just Jonk there pips him back on that fastest lap. The only thing that could come out is he is running in completely clean air, and some of these guys like Burns and Jonk, if they are able to go a lap longer on fuel, that may be the downfall of Manuel Lucetta. And so what he is probably thinking right now is he is trying to go just all out in that 91 machine. Not think about fuel numbers, just drive the fastest lap that he can. Some of these guys in the pack, they're probably trying to go a little bit slower, conserve some fuel, and see if maybe they can get him on an overcut.
Ooh, here's a change for position as Burns is going to overtake Brame. So Brame may be considering that fuel issue as he gets a little loose coming into China Beach, and that's going to allow Jonk to get side by side with him. This is where this is a danger. They could lose touch with David Burns here, who is actually pulling away from them, and he's going to love this as he could focus forward on trying to catch Lucetta as well.
Indeed, as now it is just Burns working his way forward, and that is the last thing that Manuel Lucetta wants to see. Burns consistently one of the fastest drivers in the Absolute Beginners League, and if he is the one chasing you, that silver 125 is not the car you want to see.
Around the carousel and starting lap 9, Lucetta, let's see if he can take another fastest lap here. Nope, a 35.6 is not going to do it for him. Burns sets a personal best of a 35.4. They're still not our quickest lap. That still belongs to Just Jonk. As just behind them, the battle for 9th between Vanderbilt and Reeder stays close. Curious how much these two are going to be working together. I think this is the closest we've seen the 21. So if he gets a run down the back stretch, DJ, I kind of want to see if he tries to overtake or if he also works together.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do. We've seen sort of both opinions of how to do this take place over the course, riding on board here with Reeder. Let's listen and see if he gives a little lift coming down the straightaway.
Yeah, there it is. Doesn't really want to attack at this stage, so he stays behind, and he'll definitely save a lot of fuel doing that, as the cars are just slipping and sliding all over the place. Not a terribly hot track, but certainly seems like they are whipping these things around down to or up to 80 degrees Fahrenheit currently on the track surface today, and just a bit humid. at about 58%. Let's check in on our leaders once again, because Burns has got this down to 1.1 seconds. Lucetta last time by a 35.6, and it's a 35.3 from David Burns. I think the 125 was being held up in that group.
I think he was too, Joe. You can see those mega times that he's putting in. Youst Young as well, although Young has been just putting in fastest lap after fastest lap. So this is definitely, I think Burns and Young have hit the fuel numbers that they want to, and they are in full-on attack mode.
This is on board third degree, as here's the lap comparison between them. And yeah, Lucetta faster until suddenly Burns gets clean air, and then the last two laps he's been absolutely on fire. I see a few drivers pitting from the back. I think those might be scheduled stops. Lucal, Crook, and Gruel.
Yeah, Joe, those are scheduled stops. As you said, we are in the pit window, but as we've seen time and time again, and frankly, as we saw in qualifying, these cars tend to respond a little bit better to lighter fuel loads. So the longer you can eke this out and the less fuel you've got to take on at the end of the race, that genuinely means that you're going to be able to go a little bit faster, the overcut being pretty much preferred across the board.
So as we watch our top two come down to the carousel once again, Burns is killing it lately. 0.7 of a second now between himself and Lucetta. I believe it was just over a second before across the line. 35.3 this time. Lucetta's trying to respond, but it's a 35 flat for David Burns. He cuts 0.3 down himself, and that is the fastest lap of the race by a wide margin.
Yeah, Burns is just on an absolute tear here. He's got the bit between his teeth, and he is going hard. Got some more pit stops in the back of the field. Looks like Josh Brain, Johan Vandeveld, Steve Durr, Joshua Dancy, and Sancinelli all coming in, but we're going to stay with Burns. He is going to be able to take advantage of the draft here, only about 0.6 of a second back from your leader, so he is in the catbird seat.
Brain comes out ahead of Vandeveld, interestingly. So as they exit back out, they're going to be in the thick of traffic, unfortunately, being the downside to this sort of strategy, but you never know. We've seen weirder things play out. They're still waiting for more than half the field to come and take their stops. As we take a glance over there, and that is Brain in the red and white machine. Vandeveld is behind him, so that is just a car off strategy from him that he's overtaking currently. There's Vandeveld in the all-black machine.
Yeah, and Johan just trying to get forward. He's going to be kicking himself ever so slightly. The Brain was able to get by him. And remember, as you said, Joe, these are drivers that are on the same lap as them, so this is technically for position, even though they have not pitted yet.
Our leader just pitted. Lucetta is in just as Burns started to catch him. Now this is fascinating. So this is just about halfway. So I wonder if he thought, okay, if we start fighting, we're going to lose time, so I'm just going to pit now, or I did not expect this from the 91.
Neither did I, and I would have to imagine that he had a little bit more fuel saved up. There you see stationary in the box and ready to get back and going. It also may have been a situation, Joe, where he just knew that there was some clean air behind him. You see where he comes out, nobody in front of him, so now he can maybe just focus on some hot laps.
That gives David Burns the lead as we take a look at Vincent Brame, who has Camerari looking around the outside, smoking the tires as he tries to control it into China Beach. Doesn't get him side by side, but he keeps racing. And Potacek has got a front row view of this action.
He does indeed, doing a very good job to just sit back and watch, knowing that it's not really possible to get a pass done through here. Hard onto the binders there, through that tricky turn 9 like we always talk about, down into Thunder Valley. Potacek doing a fantastic job watching everything in front of him.
Burns is coming up to the pit entry now. Let's see if he responds or if he stays out. He's gonna stay out. So no stops except for Brame from our top drivers. The 25 decides that what's good for the leader is good for me. So Lucetta should easily be able to overtake him. Next highest after Lucetta right now is Josh Brain. I think we should see Vincent return to the track before Josh.
Yeah, looking at my math, I think that should be right, but this will be a good indicator in terms of seeing just how much Lucetta may have lost or gained coming through there.
Lucetta goes by Brame now, and Josh is coming across the line. Indeed, Vincent Brame should come out between them easily. Lucetta up the road by about 2 seconds, so he's not going to be within the toe, but Brame is at least keeping Manuel within his sights.
Exactly, and crucial to remember out of that, looking at the pit stop comparisons, Brame was stationary in the box about 0.7 of a second faster than Lucetta, so he was stationary for less time, able to take a quicker pit stop. I have to see if that comes back to bite Manuel.
There's the pit stop comparison between them. Lucetta obviously playing a little bit safe there. So Manuel continuing on in at 7th, picking up little spots here and there as others around him start to pit and keep him from having to force his way through. David Burns decides now is the time to react to those who have been pitting in. Now, when we saw Manuel pitting before, he was ahead, but not by much from David Burns. Will we be seeing a leapfrog in this exchange?
Well, that's the question. Burns now fully stationary in the box. Let's see what happens here. Looks like Lucetta is working his way through the final sections now.
And Burns is going. There we see Manuel as he accelerates towards the first corner. But Burns is starting to pull onto the straight, and he's got the track advantage. He's got the track position. It's by about a second as they finally are up to speed, and Burns indeed did use those pit stops to manage to take the lead.
Absolutely brilliant from David Third Degree Burns to be able to take the lead of this race back. He has got a gap of roughly 0.9 of a second. Manuel now going to be trying to fight back on it, but now the big question is, Jost Junk, he's been fast consistently. Can he pull a leapfrog as well?
Last lap was a 34.9. Now, before he had some help of the toe to set those quick laps. Let's see, Burns before his pit stops, 35 flat, 35.1. So, yeah, it's going to be tight because he wasn't too far back, down to 17 minutes left to go. And the 13 is going to decide to stay out for another one. Camerari and Potacek follow suit. It's a long ways back to 4th. Stipek, 21 seconds back. He's the next one to have not pitted. He's towing along Ryan Walker. And then you get to our leader. Once things cycle through, we expect David Burns, but that has, of course, a question mark over it.
It does indeed, and Joe, Lucetta has been able to make up some ground on Burns. He's got that gap down to about 0.5 seconds right now, so I don't think Lucetta is out of this race by any stretch of the imagination.
Ooh, there was a big lockup there as we were riding on board down into the keyhole. Thankfully, he didn't wreck from that one. And the 125 still ahead of Manuel in the 91, but by 0.5 seconds. He's starting to gain on him once again, and they're coming upon traffic that is not pitted yet. This is Ryan Walker and Peter Stipek just in front of them.
And they are locked in a battle, so do not expect them to play nice and get out of the way for your two leaders here. Looks like Burns had a better first sector, able to grow that gap out a little bit more, but they are certainly gaining in on Walker and Stipek.
Looks like Walker's going to be able to get to the inside. Can he complete the pass? If they go side by side here, this will definitely hold up Burns. And no, they'll manage to get in a row. So the number 4 gets himself into P4 with that move. But now Burns starts to rock up to the gearbox of the 6 at a horrible time.
Does indeed. He's going to get caught out here if he is not careful. Jost Junk staying out. Just a note to our viewers, our leader stays out. There you can see well positioning the car over turn 9. Oh, this is really hurting Burns.
This might make the difference. Even if Jonk was not that quick, and actually he wasn't, as a 35.4 and a 35.5. So, and surprisingly slow laps for him. There goes our two lapped cars getting out of the way, and Burns has unfortunately lost all of his gap to Manuel.
He has indeed, Manuel, all up his gearbox now, seeing what he can do. Let's see as they come out of turn one. Can he make the draft work here and maybe get a pass into the keyhole?
It's a 35.8 last time for Burns. That is about 0.3 slower than Jonk last time through. This is not looking good as they come off of the keyhole. Here we go. This is where the slipstream starts to come into effect. Lucetta, with a longer pit stop than Burns, should theoretically be safer on fuel. So he is free to attack, we think, if he wants to. Weaving back and forth, eventually picks the right side and then decides against the battle overall.
That is a very good job there from Burns, defending his line in the correct way, but doing everything that he can do to break the slipstream as well. Very, very heads up.
Down to less than 15 minutes to go. Does the junkyard dog pit? Yes, he does. However, Cammareri does not, and Potacek does. So Cammareri now going to come across and lead a lap.
That's correct, as it looks like Potacek also coming into the pits. So Cammareri now one of only about 4 drivers not to dive into the pits. Jonk stationary in the box, getting fuel, and now we just wait to see where Burns is. They're coming through the carousel now.
Burns down and across the line. Jonk is moving, but he does not have a pit stall that's very close to the front. As he crosses, Burns coming around the corner at the same time. This is going to be very, very close. He's got the momentum. He's going to be ahead, but Jonk has now caught the tail of him, and it is now a 3-way fight for the lead.
Oh my goodness gracious. Very, very good pit stop there for Justus Jonk. He's just now got to make sure he keeps his nose involved in this and stay alive for the last lap of the race, because you are looking at what will more than likely be our podium.
I don't know if it's necessarily going to be these 3, because the 30 wasn't that far back when we saw Jonk come in. So if if Danielle can manage to get a good stop here, and he was pulling a toe, I want to say, from much of that first part of the race, we could see him jump up into the fray, and it's a 4-car fight for 3 seats.
Very good point, Joe, but we focus here on Burns, Lucetta, and Jonk as they make their way through the S's and down into turn 9. A little bit sideways there.
Cammareri just went off on the pit entry. I'm not sure if this is going to be an unsafe exit or not, or entry rather. I think he'll manage to avoid a penalty, as he did not hit the cones, but he went into the grass. That might cost him that little bit of time he needed.
Oh my goodness. Well, our leaders now coming through the carousel. Let's see if Cammareri can make it out in time.
He's not moving yet. I don't think, yeah, he's going to get absolutely swamped. Now he's rolling, and the leaders are past. That one little error may have cost him a shot at the victory. And look at the lap traffic start to get thicker and thicker. That was Van Emersiel trying to stay out of the way.
It was, and up ahead of them, they've got Christopher Giros right there. After then, it's Simone Zamolo about 5.5 seconds up the road. So these guys are not going to have a whole lot of room to breathe.
Ooh, Potacek. Oh, no. Potacek got involved with Cammareri. They must have come out together. Indeed. Let's take a look at the replay. Now, Danielle was ahead as they came out, and he caught him, and then under braking, they're just going to tangle wheels. And honestly, as much as Wojciech is upset, I kind of put that as a little bit of a racing deal, just interlocking wheels, and they got a bad bounce.
Yeah, it looked like the Cammareri was just trying to come down and cover off his line a little bit to get the best run he could out of the keyhole. And sometimes when you're racing open wheel cars, these things just do happen.
Danielle is able to continue, but Potacek is not, sadly. So went better for one more than the other, as we see Giros ahead of our leaders, causing a slight checkup. Burns is going to want to get by the number 36 here pretty soon. And Christopher's not pulling over on the front stretch. Is he going to go wide here? Yeah, he's just going to go wide into the first corner. Nicely done.
Yeah, that was a good move there from Gyros. Very, very thankful. Looks like here we ride on board with Just Junk. Lucetta maybe thought about it, but here comes Junk. Is he going to try something up the inside of Lucetta? No, he's not. They're going to stay nice and orderly. Lucetta cuts off any chance Junk had of trying to get a good run out of the keyhole, and now it is draft time.
All this is happening 7.7 seconds ahead of Vincent Brame, who lost out in that pit stop exchange. This is a good run for Just, and he's going to try and stick it up the inside as they fly down into China Beach. He's given space at the apex, and he has to give up the ghost as it switches back.
He does. Thought he was going to maybe try for the over-under there, but that's very hard to do through that aggressively elevation-changing corner of turn 5. But that little squabble there, Joe, it looks like it's allowed for David Burns to pull a little bit of a gap. So Young's got to be careful. He doesn't want to spend too much time squabbling with Lucetta because if he does, that means that Burns is just going to run away off into the sunset.
Wow. Attrition rears its ugly head in an unusual way. Vincent Brame must have misshift coming into China Beach. He blew his engine. He is out of the race. Johan Vandenbel gets promoted to 4th after starting this in 21st.
My goodness gracious. It just goes to show you there, Joe, that you've got to constantly be careful. And if you miss even a single gear shift, it can come back to bite you.
Unbelievable result if he can hold this, but he's got Josh Brame still chasing him. It's about 2 seconds between them. We'll try and give a shot if that gets any closer. There you can see Brame in the background. So we come back to our top 3. Burns, Lucetta, Junk, still towing along. Gyros, who's just kind of getting to watch the show, but obviously not fighting for position, being a lapped car. This time, Just was not nearly as close to Manuel down into China Beach, so not going to go side by side this time, but he gains plenty under braking.
Does indeed, and I thought for a second there that Lucetta was going to be the one to have the run on David Burns, but I think he just backed out of it ever so slightly. You know, at this point, Joe, we are looking down at only about 9 or 8 minutes, left to go in this race, so I think drivers are going to start to think about where do you want to position your car on that final lap? Where do you think you can get the pass made and there will be no counterattack?
Yeah, and unfortunately, it doesn't appear like it's going to be a slam dunk, even if you get that slipstream. A number of drivers have certainly shown difficulty trying to finish the overtake through the winding back and forth of madness and the S's. Ooh, a look to the inside there. Not sure that was a serious attempt from Junk, as very rarely do you see passes into the first corner.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit of a mind game, but there's Lucetta diving very, very far out to the left on the track. I think that may have been an attempt to maybe break a little bit of the draft from Junk behind him, maybe just psych out David Burns a little bit. There you see Lucetta and Burns have different lines coming through that keyhole. Burns likes to sort of reverse the corner a little bit, take a later apex and be very tight off the exit. Lucetta likes to be a little bit tighter through, but here comes Lucetta again, poking his head around, seeing what he can see. Don't think he's going to have a move here, though.
Junk is considering it, though, as he almost sticks his nose in, that backs out once they hit the corner. So he'll stay in P3. We do have a side-by-side battle for 6. Reader and Neptune are going to play a game of chicken down into the corner. Let's see who comes out the best in it. Reader outside of the first apex, but inside of the next one. Nobody really giving away any ground. This stays side by side, and I think Neptune might have this one done. Indeed, he does. No, cutback from Taylor Reader. Tries it, but he's a little too wide over the crest.
Can't hold it down, but absolutely stellar. Whoa, there, Neptune getting very, very sideways coming over the crest of turn 9, but very, very good defense there from the Trident.
Some fun stuff here try and sort out sixth place just outside of the top 5 with only 5 minutes to go. Oh, extremely wide from Reeder, trying to square off that final corner and get himself a launch. Doesn't look like it paid off, though. Oh, and we got a pass for second. Yonk managed to get to the inside through the keyhole, but that may have compromised his exit as Manuel now has the advantage. Better speed down the straight.
Does indeed, and there you see it. Now Young trying to slot back in behind. Is he going to have a look? That's a defensive line into the corner there from Manuel, but Young's going to try to go to the outside. Looks for the over-under. Whoa!
Nope, he shuts the door. So Lucetta is going to retain second place, but now Young is starting to try some different places. I'm not seeing desperation necessarily, but he's getting creative with it at this point.
He is, and I would not be surprised if we start to see some more unorthodox passing zones start to develop here. Maybe something through Thunder Valley into the carousel. Not normally a place you see it, but at this point, these guys know where they're going to get it. Ooh, Lucetta running a little bit into the grass there.
Still doesn't lose too much time. The 91 is in this thing. David Burns withstanding a whole lot of pressure. He's got a couple more laps that he has to do it, though, as they fly through turn 1. Last time we saw an attempt from Yonk. I don't think he's close enough. This time it's going to be reversed, maybe? No. Manuel thought about it. He had the run. Oh, but him checking up has allowed his rival to get to the inside yet again. But once again, he's going for the over-under to get the better exit off the turn. This time he's fully behind instead of side by side as they head down to the apex. That door closes. I don't think there's enough. No, it opens up once again, but he's boxed in as Yonk is spying the lead. He's trying around the outside of David Burns. Burns better down to the apex of China Beach. Inside is going to switch back to Youst Yonk, but the battle has seemed to continue every time we've seen this erupt here into madness, and it looks like Burns fights back down to the right-hander. Oh, they bang wheels, and now it looks like Burns, unfortunately, might have to give way. No, he comes back at him into the braking of turn 9, into Thunder Valley. They continue this fight, wheel to wheel. Lucetta is watching. Does he try to make it 3 wide into here? I would not advise it. He's going to try and go around the outside of Yonk, and it's going to work, and they're back to how they were last lap.
Joe, I have no idea how those guys, all 3 of them, aren't in the grass right now. That was just some exemplary driving from Burns, Lucetta, and Yonk. Absolutely insane. But now we've got to reset again. They cross over the line just under 3 minutes to go here at Mid-Ohio. Let's see if they can do it again.
Youst held every position of those top 3 that lap, but did not manage to hold it and gets slotted back to 3rd. This time, will we see Manuel attempt the pass? No, but he's going to try and size it up by going wide. He leaves the door open for Yonk, but Yonk can't quite get the overlap that he needs. Looking for the exit. He continues to ride in the slipstream of the 125. The Italian is fighting hard for this one. After starting from 3rd place, we are going to go 3 wide. Here comes Yonk. He takes the very inside of all 3 of them, but he's going to be pinched down. And it's going to be Manuel who takes the lead away.
It is indeed trying to stick clear of. That was Mackenzie Mann they got by. Manuel into the lead. Yonk now still back in 3rd with Burns. Now the meat in the sandwich here as we're going to come to the line, and I believe that's going to be the white flag as they cross.
I can't believe that Yonk has not taken this lead at some point across the line. He's been the most aggressive of these 3, but maybe that's what's paid off for the 91. As the Italian is going to come through turn 11 and then around the carousel. He's going to have to fight them off this time by. The slipstream sure looked powerful that time. What's it going to look like this time?
We'll have to see everybody just trying to take as smooth of a line as they can as they come out of that final corner. Now into turn one, a little bit more spaced out in the front. They're kind of starting to pull away ever so slightly. Yonk looks like he had a good run there on Burns. They go into the straightaway before the keyhole, knocking over some cones there. They're kind of getting defensive. Is Burns going to have a look up the inside? No. Manuel shuts the door.
He's going to need a monster run here, and then he's going to have to try and finish the job when they get down to madness. As they start to pick up speed over 100 miles an hour now, Burns feels the effects of the slipstream. Which way? He chooses the right side as Lucetta decides not to defend. This time, not a 3 wide for Yonk. As he backs out of it, tries to see how this is going to affect things, still side by side, down through madness, almost once again making contact. Lucetta's going to be on the outside of this corner. Can he keep the speed up? It's looking like yes, indeed. Manuel retains the top spot. Behind them, Just Yonk can't take advantage and could not overtake for second.
He couldn't, but Lucetta got a little squirrely there coming off of the corner, but it looks like Yonk may be the one to take advantage here, trying to find a way by Burns. They go down the straightaway and into turn 10. Nothing doing there, but Yonk coming on with a full head of steam. Does he have anything there? Burns shuts off the apex, and Lucetta is able to hold it.
At the line, Manuel Lucetta is going to take the win in the 91 today, followed by David Burns in second and Just Yonk in third. They were split by less than half a second at the line. Vanderbilt with a great run to fourth here, just barely beating out, no, that was not a battle for position. That was a lapped car, excuse me.
And there we see Josh Brain crossing the line to take that, but Neptune in a very good battle across the line with Reeder. Who's going to be able to come out on top of that? It looks like Neptune, but ever so slightly. The gap, 77 thousandths of a second.
Eric Lukal ahead of Gruel, Mild, and Tulo. It's not much between them, and if he makes any little error, you know that they're going to pounce off of the carousel, though. He is nice and smooth. Lukal will claim 13th. 14th will go to Gruel, with Mild in 15th and Tullo in 16th. I think that's the last of our battles here at the end of the race. Oh, maybe not. Potacek is catching on Leolius. I don't think he's going to be able to get him before the line, though. Certainly was right on top of him, and indeed, what was a much better race at one stage, Potacek has to settle for 23rd. That's going to take us to a break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Up at the top here today for Absolute Beginners Formula Neagle. I think Manuel Lucetta would have done Dennis proud with that run, fighting off the likes of David Burns, retaking the lead from him after the pit stops, and taking second was Burns with Just Jonk home in third, all three of them fighting down to the line. Vanderbilt was fourth with Josh Brain finishing P5. Vanderbilt, by the way, up from 21st. Frederick Neptune finished sixth and Taylor Reed in seventh. We didn't really get to cover it, but Josh Dancy went from 26th to 8th. Ryan Walker was P9 and Ludwig Sauer rounded out your top 10.
In 11th was Peter Stipek, followed by Daniele Camarera. You saw that incident he had just after his pit stop. Edgar Sancinello was able to come home in 13th, followed by Eric Lukel and Christian Grula. Jan Mild was 16th, followed by Thortella, Kai Albstead, Christopher Crook, and Nick Tulla to round out your top 20.
21st went to Leolius as Wojciech Podacek finished 22nd. Then it was Wilfert who finished 23rd, followed by Steve Durr last on the lead lap and 24th. Giros, Mann, Loden, Zamolo, Van Emerseel all finished a lap down. You get to DNFs after that with Brame, Simonson, Francisco, and Pienye Zek. Let's talk to our second place finisher, David Burns here. David, what a race that was. We were watching you start to chase down Manuel after you managed to get by a bunch of those drivers in the pack. Was that you trying to hurry through because you knew you were faster than him, or was that just a nice perk?
No, it was. I knew I had the pace to catch him because around here I can normally do 34s, but the track temp was just a little warm. But I knew I could get a flat 35, and I knew it was faster than his first stint. So yeah, I was trying to catch him at that point.
And then after the pit stops, you two wound up together anyways, and Jonk suddenly joined the fray. So what's going through your mind after those three all kind of settle together and you think, oh, great, this could be a game of who plays it right at the very end?
Well, with Just, you have to play the game because he will take the opportunity if there's the slightest gap. So I don't know if you would call it dirty tactics, but I was trying to encourage him and Manuel to fight because I knew it was my only chance. If I thought those two can fight, I can maybe break the draft. So there was a little bit of tactics. I'm not really a dirty driver, but I consider that slightly dirty. But when Just is around, the racing's always good. Those last 3 laps were really good fun. They were really good.
Well, that's fascinating that you even went to that lengths to see what you could do to give yourself the edge. Of course, we're going to another track where it's kind of known for proving difficult to overtake at Imola. Have you learned anything from this round that you can maybe take out to Italy to try and pull one over on Manuel on home ground?
I'm not sure if I've learned anything, to be honest. Imola's not my best track. I will have to try and push to get a really decent lap time. I think the last time we were here, Manuel was faster there, so I'm going to have to put a bit more practice in. But just slow and steady. Just consistency is my key, to be honest.
Well, congratulations on another podium, and hopefully we will get to talk to you when we head off to Imola.
Cheers, guys.
That was David Third Degree Burns with a second place today. Up next, DJ has caught up with Taylor Reeder, who finished 7th.
Well, Taylor, you got that 7th place after starting a little bit farther down on the grid. It seemed like you were involved in constant action out there. How was it?
It was great. A lot of the times I was trying to kind of just back off after I saw that first lap carnage. So I was trying to be very careful going into each corner. But it was a great race. I really enjoyed it.
So when you're approaching a track like Mid-Ohio, which is known for being a little bit more difficult to overtake, is that kind of your mentality all the way through the race of like, okay, let's just maybe apply some pressure and force some guys into mistakes? Or are you deliberately trying to drive a little bit more aggressive when you know you've got the speed to get by somebody?
Yeah, so I definitely say I'm applying pressure. Just trying to wait for someone to make a mistake. I'm pretty sure me and Frederick Neptune, we were back and forth quite a bit. And I just wanted to see, going into that after the long straight, if he'd have if he'd give me enough room on the outside to where we could go in and not touch, and he did. So most of my race today was just me trying to keep it steady, apply some pressure, but not necessarily go for an overtake.
Gotcha. Well, Joe, I'm going to steal this line from him earlier. We go from one track where it's hard to overtake to another track where it's hard to overtake in 2 weeks at Imola. How do you think that one's going to go for you?
I'm actually really excited for Imola. I love that track. Last season, I did pretty well there, and it's before I knew to take off changing your tires. So that put me about 5 or 6 places back on the grid when I was running about 5th or 6th place, I think. So I feel like this is going to be redemption for me, but I do love Imola, so I'm excited for that.
All right. Well, you heard it there, folks. We'll be keeping an eye out for Taylor's. It sounds like you may have a good run in Italy. Taylor, thank you, and congratulations again on 7th place.
Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.
And now Joe Peak has caught up with our 4th place driver, Johan Vandeveld.
Indeed, Johan making up a lot of spots. But before we get to the race itself, Johan, since I know you've had involvement in helping run this league for part of the time of its existence, I know you've obviously worked with Dennis some and spoke to him some, but what are the feelings like among the drivers when this news broke, and what is everybody kind of doing to help one another through this hard time?
Yeah, we were devastated. We didn't expect this. Dennis, some people might know, was one of the original founders of the league, all the way back in 2014 when we started the Absolute Beginners League. He, together with Tony Hayes and Greg Nutley, were the first people like setting everything up. So he was one of the OGs, one of the first people here. And when when we started the first season, so we were teammates for a while until he decided to stop iRacing and dedicate more time to his rallying career and his rallying passion. And yeah, it's when we saw the news, Wojtek was the one who broke it in our admin group, and we were all shocked. Like we knew that he still had this passion burning for rallying. We know that he loved doing this. We saw the pictures that he posted on Facebook, how happy he was, and to see him being involved in this, like, all shook us all.
I can imagine. It's a reminder of the dangers of our sport, undoubtedly, but it's obviously something made up a bit, I'm sure, by today having such a good race. What put you back in 21st, and how in the world did you climb all the way to 4th?
Yeah, it's a different story. The race was really positive for me. I made a huge mistake in qualifying, and I want to apologize once again to Joshua Darcy, who I was drafting with a little bit, and I was staying in front of him. I was pulling him along in qualifying, and I had one time in the first hairpin, I had a bad exit, and that allowed him to overtake me. But when we got to the braking zone at the end of the straight, I misjudged my braking point, and I took myself and him as well out. So that meant that after 6 minutes, I had to take a tow, get a new car, and start qualifying again. But because you're on cold tires in those opening laps, the first 3 laps are kind of moot. You cannot really be quick in those laps. So that meant that even though I was one of those laps in the draft of Benny Simonson, so you should be able to be quick, I was only able to manage 21st. And in the race, I could just made up by having my normal pace, but also because other people ran into trouble that I had in qualifying. Luckily, I was spared from that in the race itself.
Sometimes Lady Luck swings either way, of course. And this is your first top 5 of the season. Does this feel kind of like a marker in the sand to turn things around?
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to be here last race. But the first race of the season, I got a P6 at Road Atlanta, and I was quite happy with that as well. I made a mistake that cost me a top 5 there as well. And I think that maybe with a better qualifying, I would have been able to stay with the top 3. Usually, I'm not able to drive their lap times, but in the draft, I can stay close to them and maybe save a bit of fuel, and then put my car in the mix at the end of the race. So it feels good. I have the pace to at least fight for podiums, or at least with Lady Luck on my side, get a podium from time to time. But yeah, the pace is there, and I hope that I can continue building on this and get a top 5 finish this season.
Well, congratulations on that top 5. Who helped make it happen for you today?
the one and only David, because every time that I appear on the track, I just run down the different corners with him and ask him what kind of gears he takes, and that usually helps me to find my speed rather quickly. So thanks, David. Shame you didn't win this one, but thanks for pulling me along that way to P4.
It was Johan Vanderbilt in fourth. And honestly, that right there, a testament to what Dennis Neagle and his friends were attempting to do when they set up this league. That's why it's called Absolute Beginners. Doesn't matter what level you're racing at. They intend to try and help everybody get up to speed and have fun in this sport. But we're going to close out today. And of course, a big thank you goes to Absolute Beginners for bringing us back for another season of coverage. And also a thank you goes to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com or simply check on our social media through the outlets listed at the bottom of the screen. If you'd like to support the channel, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. Link is in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well so you don't miss a moment. The next race will be at Imola, Sunday, May 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern, but we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Later this evening, going to Talladega for the PRL NASCAR Cup Series, and that kicks off at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.